Video is going to be about the GP problem that the globe has. This is a stupid thing that's come up many times, and it's just such a simple answer to it. Basically, our opposition are, they're brazen enough to try and claim that you can have basically an elevation angle to either a mountain or anything or a celestial body of a tangent, right? Now, I'm going to link my last video in the description, as that dealt with an angular size measurement, which would also involve for them a tangent. And it takes all that rubbish apart. This is a similar, in one way, similar video, but not the same, as it's focusing on it's focusing on a similar thing, but in a slightly different way. They don't understand that to have an elevation angle, right, they want to deny it's a right angle triangle, right, which is stupid, right? Here is an elevation angle of the Eiffel Tower, right? As you can see, it's a right angle triangle, right? There's loads of these diagrams online. There's the sun, right? It's going to be no different to the sun. It's going to be a right angle triangle, because an elevation angle always has a 90-degree angle within it. So how can you have a 90-degree angle in an elevation angle if, do you know what I mean? If your elevation angle here, this angle here, and this angle here, let's say angle A and angle B are not going to be 90. The only one that can be 90 is C. But they want to argue stupid, because they can't handle the fact that the elevation angle is a right angle triangle. But even if you the only way I got them to accept it was, even though I shouldn't have to do this, was say, well, what about to a tangent? They were like, yeah, okay, kind of thing, right? But that was the trap, right? So I'm going to go through the problems they have with their tangent, right, which is complete and utter rubbish, right? So here, as I said, here is a right angle triangle at the top of the Eiffel Tower. There is a sun, right? If we move this angle out a bit and increase the hypotenuse length, increase the length of the adjacent, the hypotenuse, and then obviously the opposite, it will be the same angle, no difference, absolutely no difference. They will accept it for something like the Eiffel Tower, but they deny it for the sun. Do you know what I mean? Often they'll accept it for one, but not for the other. They'll accept the right angle triangle which is an angle of elevation for the Eiffel Tower, but they don't accept it for the sun or the stars, etc. Now, there's no difference. The process of how you calculate it is different, but the angle is the same. Both processes require it to be a right angle triangle. They can't be done without that. Now, they want to think that it can be done, right? This is what they want to think, that it can be done via just basically an angled line off of a tangent, and try and ignore this line here, this third line here, the opposite. What in this here, if you take away the 310 feet of adjacent and 1063 feet of opposite, what is actually being measured, right? It's this straight line up here, the vertical. That's what's being measured. You're measuring that from the horizontal up. You're measuring a straight 90 degrees from the horizontal. So that's why that is 90, because you're measuring it from the horizontal straight up. That's the measurement. So you're literally measuring the opposite. The very thing that they deny is part of the elevation angle to a celestial body. It can't be an elevation angle without that. Without that, you're starting at this point and you're going up. That is what's being measured. It's a vertical angular height. That's what it is. But you're measuring the vertical off of the horizontal. The vertical is always 90 to horizontal, and that is why it's a 90-degree angle. But obviously, these people are, all I could really call them most of the time, they're either dishonest or they're kind of held back mentally. A lot of these people, they can't understand very simple things in reality that are just part of reality. They just can't get it. They're really, really strange group of people. If we go to this next diagram, here's an angle of elevation. again, right? Now this is to a tower, kind of like the Eiffel Tower before. But I want to show this. It's like you have line A here, which is at the eye line of the observer, and line B, which is at the feet of the observer. But it doesn't matter if line A and line B are, let's say 2 meters apart, right? Or if they're 200 miles apart, right? It makes no difference. Line A and line B must be parallel to each other, right? The reason they must be parallel to each other is the GP point of the top of this, right, of this tower must, right, be directly below it vertically, right, at B. It has to be. So if we treat A as somebody on a boat, right, or in an airplane, we go with. We treat A as somebody in an airplane taking an angle, right, and we treat this like a celestial body. Then line B must be mean sea level. So at that point, right, the GP point for the celestial body must be directly vertically below it on and at mean sea level. Right? It has to be. That's the way the angle, and this is where your 90-degree angle is. The vertical height straight down, straight up off of the horizontal. So it's been measured off of this line A straight up, right? But line A has to be parallel with line B. Now they want to, our opposition want to try and claim that line A can just be a tangent. Now obviously in an airplane it can't be a tangent because it's not touching. If it was on a globe, it's not touching their globe at one point. So straight away they're geometrically out of bounds, right? But just to go along with their stupidity, we'll go along with it for the. I just wanted to point that out because it shows that they're idiots, right? But let's just say, right, hypothetically, that it is a tangent from the eye line of the navigator in the airplane, right? Then that would mean then that the GP of the celestial body, right, won't be directly below at line B, because they have a curved surface. So there's going to be a discrepancy, and depending on the angle to the celestial body, right, depending on the angle, that will determine the amount of discrepancy, which I'm going to show in a minute. Sorry, it's just one of these magic mouses jumping around. So here we have, right, here is, right, azimuth and an elevation to the sun, right? So not only do you need a horizontal plane for azimuth, right, but you also need a GP point for the sun, and it must be directly below the sun. It has to be. This is not my diagram. This is from an official schematic depicting the solar zenith angle and altitude angle of the sun, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This is some officially made diagram. This is the way it has to be. This here is the GP point of the sun, right? That's what it has to be, because the angle is from here along this horizontal. This is the horizontal, directly vertically up to the sun. That's what gives you the angle. And that means it's a horizontal, right, meeting a vertical meeting a horizontal. That makes it 90 degrees, right? That's why there is a 90-degree angle in every elevation angle, because it's been measured off the horizontal. So it doesn't matter even if you're claiming, if you're really stupid and you're claiming that this horizontal is a tangent because you're thick, right? It doesn't matter if that's what you're saying. It still has to be a 90-degree angle at your tangent. But the problem is that if this is your tangent and this here is your 90-degree angle here, right, then the GP must be directly below the corner of the 90-degree angle. It can't be somewhere else. It must be directly below it. So that's why this is the first reason, and I'm going to show the problem. I'm going to show the problems with this in a minute, right? Why, right? Line B has to be parallel to line A. Line B cannot be an arc length, while line A is a straight line. Now, they don't have, I was saying horizontal a few minutes ago, but they don't have a horizontal. It can't be a horizontal on it. There is no horizontal or vertical on a globe. But you would still be making a straight line, right? But even this doesn't work because the straight line here, as I said, because it's not meeting the GP of this, if that's a curved surface underneath it, it's not meeting the GP, so that straight line can't be a straight line. That has to be a diverging line from the zenith of this person over here. This is just terrible. This is just like, these people, they're unbelievable. Like the level of tick with these people. Like, it's either like, but some of them is pure dishonesty, but some of them, it's like, my God, it's like simple stuff, and they just can't. You're going through it and through it and through it. They just can't get it. Just very simple concepts. They're just unable to get it. They just come back to you with the same rhetoric. Unbelievable. Either way, right, them being stupid or them being dishonest makes no difference. The point is that they're wrong. That's all that matters, isn't it? Right? So this line B can't be an arc length, because if that's an arc length, then this line here can't be a vertical. Or sorry, it won't be vertical. It'll be a straight line. It can't be a straight line because that would have to be a diverging zenith from the straight line above this guy's head, because that would be two divergent zeniths. The whole thing is a mess, right? Right. So there's another reason why, right, line A or line B can't be a curved line. Right. So I'm just going to show you the implications of their issue. Right. So here we have an observer, right, and here we have, I'm calling this GP1 FE for flat out and 500. That means between this point here and this point here is a 500 mile straight line distance. Now I have an arc length in the blue here, right, of also 500 miles. It's 500.824, but right, I have both of them. I have both of these basically. This is 500.8, so it doesn't matter. It's only a tiny little thing. The point being is that this is a 500 mile arc length, or just tiny bit over it, and this is just slightly over 500 miles of a straight line. Now, if we come in here, I'll just zoom in, right? This line, this dot here. Well, I'm not moving it slightly, right? This dot here corresponds exactly. I'm just going to go back just to make sure. Right. Now, if I go in, right, this dot here corresponds exactly straight down vertically from this dot here, right? Right, but this is where this one here is where the 500 mile arc length finishes. So there's a discrepancy over 500 miles, right? The discrepancy is 1.32 miles, which means that if, let's say, the Eratosthenes measured 500 miles with an elevation angle using the shadow, starting as his vertex to Alexandria, or sorry, from Alexandria to Cyan. So if this here is Alexandria, right, and he's measuring the shadow, and he's gaining he has an elevation of 82.76, I think, is elevation angle, giving him a 7.24 zenith angle, right, and he calculates out 500 miles, right. What's going to happen is, and this is why he has to start focusing on the shadows, because he knew, right, whether he existed or not, the story, whoever came up with the story, right, they knew, right, that there was going to be a discrepancy. So over 500 miles, there's a discrepancy of 1.332 miles, which means that the point directly below this point here, right, which will have to be the well in Cyan, right, so if he is above the elevation of the well, right, what that would mean is that the right angle of his elevation angle, which is here, right, that point here will not be in alignment with the well, because if he's on a globe, because on a globe this is where the well will be, whereas the well is straight up from here, because there's an arc length, there's a difference here, in distance across the globe of 1.32 miles. Right, or in reality there'll be a difference. The point being is that the GP of the well will not be directly below, right, directly below this point. So if he's at an elevation in Alexandria that's, let's just say, 300 feet higher than, or whatever it is, than the well, So this is not the well here. Sorry. So this is not the well here, right? The well is below here, right? Below his elevation. Well, on a globe, on a globe, not only would the well be a lot further, right, than that, because obviously it's going to be way further than that because it's back way down here. But it's also, the well is going to be back here at an angle, because if I zoom in, there's going to be, the well won't be straight below, so it won't be a GP. It won't be directly below the vertex of the 90-degree angle, which it has to be. It is going to be back here, 1.32 miles. You know what I mean? It's back the way, 1.32 miles, if we're talking about a globe. So that's just 500 miles. So people go, ballers would go, oh, well, that's only a little bit of a discrepancy. It's because they say these things to themselves. It don't really matter. 1.32 miles matters a lot, right? Number one, baller, right? Just get that into your skull immediately. That matters a lot. But secondly, right, you're dealing with a squared function when you're dealing with the surface, the drop from a straight line over a curved surface, right? You're not so this is an accumulation situation. So if we increase it from 500, right, to 3,000, right, we end up with a differential of 400 miles. So if he was measured to a well that was 3,000 miles away, right, with the same process, then the well, if he was on a globe, would have to be 3,000 miles back further on their globe. Or sorry, 400 miles back further on their globe. But it can't be. The GP must be directly below. These two are in direct alignment. This one here and this one here. They're on the same line. They're exactly the same. So the problem he has is that, or the problem the ballers have is, you can't have a GP on a globe, because the GP will never match where the vertex of the right angle triangle. You can't. This line here. This can't be a tangent, because this is where if that's a tangent, then this here is where the GP has to be on a globe. But it's not, because because this arc length here from this browser point here over to this is, right, 3,000, just 3,001, but 3,000 miles, right? But if this is 3,000 miles and that's 3,000 miles and this is a tangent and we're on a globe, then the GP point is going to be 400 miles into the future, like 400 miles further on. So the GP point can never be on a globe. It will consistently, with bigger and bigger distances, the GP point will never match where it has to be. They will always be out of alignment with the globe, because there's 400 miles of a differential here. And the problem they have then is that there won't be a GP point when they get past 3959. So if they measure if there's a 4,000 mile or 4,500 mile adjacent measured, then there is no GP point. It doesn't exist, because what it's going to be is, I may as well do it. Sorry, it's going to go here a sec. Where are we? Give me segment with given length. Right, I'm going to go 4500. Right. Stop. Sorry. Right, this will show it. So here is a 4,500 mile one. So where's the GP? It has to be down here, don't it? Here, it would have to be here. It would be if I stopped messing around. It would have to be here. That's where it has to be. Directly below B. Do you know what I mean? It can't not be right there. Directly below B. That's where it has to be. Because if we go back just a second to here, let's go to the sun. It has to be directly below it. The GP point must be directly below it. That's how it works. So this line here cannot be a tangent. This can't be a tangent, Bowler. Right? Stop being stupid. That can't be a tangent to a sphere. Because if it is, then this process cannot exist. The whole point of it is that the GP is directly below the celestial body, just like the GP is directly below the tip of this tower. Right? At line B. Right? And the same for here. The GP of the Eiffel Tower, right, has to be directly below the Eiffel Tower, right, at sea level, right, or let's just say on the ground, but at sea level, mean sea level. And the same is going to be for the sun. You cannot use a tangent and just say, we just use a tangent. No, that's just idiocy. That's just you stupid people not understanding very simple things. And for the ones who do understand, they're just too dishonest to admit. So they're literally holding back the people on their own side who are already mentally held back. You know what I mean? There's obviously something wrong with these people that they can't understand such simple geometric, you know what I mean, axioms. They're not getting this. You cannot have a GP point on a globe because it's not going to be directly below your tangent. As I show here, there's a 400-mile differential. It just doesn't work. 400 miles. So you can go, it's only 1.3 miles. We're here with 500 miles. It's only 1.3 miles. And maybe that helps you sleep at night, where you can sleep with 1.3 mile of a difference. I don't know. But maybe that helps you sleep at night. But when there's a 3,000 mile adjacent measured, right, then there's a 400-mile differential. Because the point directly below that is going to be 400 miles further on in your globe future, right? Than your actual GP point on the globe. So if this is a well 3,000 miles, the GP, if this is a measurement of a distance to a well using the same method using the sun, 3,000 miles away from the observer, then on a globe, that well is going to be, like the GP point of the well, is going to be 400 miles too far. It doesn't work. Your globe is just a disaster. No, never works. It's always like it's complete fraud. I don't know why you continue to support this nonsense. But for me, in some ways, I hope you do. Because I enjoy doing this to you. Because you deserve it. Because you don't concede to anything. Ballers, you never concede. Like, when you're wrong, just concede. You're wrong, end of story. But no, let's just continue on. Okay then, we will. Your GP point is 400 miles wrong. Idiots. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.